Amberwood, a great project, but are you paying too much? Amberwood at Holland, right, look like one of the most interesting upcoming launches in District 10. There's only 212 units, low-rise blocks, family-size apartment near Methodist School within 1 kilometer, and it's the first project inside this new Holland Plain precinct. On paper, there's a lot to like, but there's one number that immediately caught my attention: 1432 PSF per plot ratio. Simian paid an aggressive price for this land. So in this video, I want to answer one question: is Amberwood genuinely a good buy, or could buyers actually end up paying too much for a very attractive story? Before discussing the price, let's understand what Amberwood is actually offering. Amberwoods in 30 seconds. Amberwoods is actually a relatively small development with only exclusively 212 homes spread across 11 blocks, and all the 11 blocks are approximately about 6 stories high. It's actually a 99 years leasehold project in District 10, and the units mix run exclusively only from 3 bedroom to 5 bedrooms. There isn't a single 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom units in this development, so that immediately makes Amberwood quite different from the typical new launch designed to accommodate both investors and owner occupied. And it tells us exactly what this project is meant for. Despite its District 10 address, this is clearly not a typical investor condo. What do I mean by that? Amberwood actually starts from 3 bedroom apartments from approximately 872 square feet and goes up to 5 bedroom, which is around 1572 square feet. So this is clearly an owner occupied product. The likely buyers are families, existing Bukit Timah or Holland residents, or even landed homeowners that is trying to right size and who parents wants to live near the schools in this area. Personally, I think that this family focus unit mix, right, could help to create a more stable kind of resident profile, and you are less likely to have a large number of tiny apartments constantly changing tenants and stuff. But there's a trade-off. With no small units, the entire quantum is naturally higher. The tenant pool is also narrower because you're mainly targeting families rather than single professionals. So the same features makes Amberwood attractive to an own stayer, but also that may make it less compelling to a retail investor. But the bigger Amberwood story actually extends far beyond the project itself. Amberwood is actually one of the 8 planned residential parcels in this new 34-hectare of Holland Plain district. All right, this eventually this wider area, right, is expected to accommodate approximately 2,500 homes. So this make Amberwood effectively plot number one of a completely new neighborhood. And we have an interesting second data point. Amberwood site was purchased for 1432 per square feet per plot ratio. Simian, the developer, subsequently secured plot 2 at about 1492 PSF per plot ratio, approximately about 4% higher. That does provide some support for the first mover advantage argument because the next land parcel has already established a higher benchmark. But I wouldn't automatically conclude that Amberwood's price therefore must be increased. Land price is only just one part of the equation. Future selling price, market condition, and competing supply and buyer demand will still matter. What it tells us is that Simlian appears very confident in this precinct to acquire a second site at a higher price. However, being the first project in a new launch precinct, right, is not just purely an advantage. The long-term Holland Plain vision is attractive. The plan includes the future Holland Green Linear Park, connection through the 24-kilometer rail corridor, more housing, and eventually a more complete neighborhood. Neighborhood buyers could actually enter before all this is fully developed, but if you are the first to move into such precinct, you will also be likely the first one to have to go through all the construction. There's another 7 other residential plot expected after Amberwoods. This could mean years of construction activities, some dust and noise, road noise and stuff like that. There's so maybe disruption associated with the future cross island line. So the trade-off is actually quite straightforward. You're entering the precinct early, but you may have to wait about maybe about 6 years before you enjoy the whole completed version of the whole neighborhood. For a long-term homestayer, that may be acceptable, but for someone who want a polished and settled environment immediately after collecting the keys, it deserves some serious consideration. Now, construction aside, there's some product specification here that I would genuinely like. All right. Amberwoods will be naturally be marketed using terms such as quiet luxury, Nordic inspired design, marble flooring, premium appliances. Those things are nice, but they aren't actually the specification that interests me the most. What stands out to me is actually the ceiling height of approximately about 3.18 meters to about 3.2 meters. The low rise environment living, which only about 2 to 4 apartments per floor and one parking lot for every home. Selected units will also have private lift. So these are actually features that how will affect the development for everyday stay. A like for example, a branded refrigerator can just be replaced, after 3, 4, 5 years. Marble can be changed, but you can't renovate a 2.8 meters ceiling height to a 3.2 meter ceiling height. The one-to-one parking ratio is actually increasingly unusual, and it makes sense for the likelihood of the buyer profile here. Many families buying in this location will probably own at least one car. So Amberwood does offer some genuine physical differentiator, not merely just decorative show flat features. And why should we consider the target family buyers? A few practical factors may even more. Amberwood is reportedly within 1 kilometer of Methodist Girls' School and Pei Hwa Presbyterian Primary. For families already considering this area, that will be naturally a major part of the appeal. The one-to-one parking ratio also matters because this is not a development that every journey will necessarily begin on foot. King Albert Park also serves the downtown line and is expected to be an interchange with the Cross Island line around 2032. The future interchange could improve Amberwood long-term connectivity, but there's one detail I will verify carefully before making a purchase decision: the actual walking route to King Albert Park MRT. Some marketing information describe it roughly about 7 minutes. Some estimate consider about a longer distance. I would rely on either claim. So without walking the route personally, so from the development entrance to the station. So this is an important factor. So I do suggest that you walk the ground and try the distance between the entrance of the condo to the MRT. Now we come to the most important part of this review, the numbers. Lian paid approximately about 368 million for this site, which is equivalent to 1432 PSF per plot ratio. Most importantly, the winning bid was around 22% higher than the second highest bid. That's a substantial gap. It tells us that Lian did not acquire this land cheaply, and the developer will naturally have to recover the cost through the eventual selling price. Current estimate placed the project break-even around 2005 to 2006, with a moderate selling range approximately about 29 to about 32. These are just estimate, not official launch price, but these help us to frame the central question. If Amberwoods launched at approximately about 3,000 square feet, are buyers receiving enough value to justify that price? So besides a beautiful development, because a beautiful development can still be a poor purchase if the entry price already accounts for too much of the future story. To answer that, we need to put 3,000 PSF into content. What else can you buy with around 3,000 PSF entry? Amberwoods, right, estimated range of about 29 to 3,002 PSF, place it around several serious alternatives. Sky at Holland launched recently at approximately about 2,953 per square feet on average and is fully sold. Right now, Dunnan House average around 3,140, while 8 at BT is around 2,750. On the higher end, Wharton House provides a luxury benchmark of around 3,007. These projects aren't perfectly interchangeable. They have different tenures, location, products, and buyer profile, but they can demonstrate, right, how competitive the market can be at around 3,000 PSF. If Amberwood launches around 2009 PSF, I can start to make a stronger argument that around in District 10, low density, the school of proximity, and the family size unit, and the Holland Plain transformation. If the better facing units start pushing beyond 3002, I'll be more selective because the alternative right now become increasingly more interesting. The price quantum, right, may look on small and PSF basis, but once you multiply it across a very large size unit, right, family size unit, the quantum difference can be quite substantial. And price isn't the only issue that buyers should understand. Every development looks fantastic if we only read the developer brochure. So these are the 5 issues that I will want my own buyer to understand. First, Amberwood is a 99 years leasehold project in an area containing many freehold properties. That doesn't automatically make it a poor investment, but it could affect its relatively appeal as the lease mature. Second, the land price was aggressive, which may leave buyers with a smaller margin of safety at launch. Third, the wider precinct could remain under construction for many years. Fourth, because every apartment is family size, the absolute entry quantum will be quite high. And fifth, rental yield probably isn't Amberwood's strongest investment story. Buyers should also study the floor plans carefully because it's a GFA harmonized project. So the layout of the project, right, of the unit that you choose is extremely important. For example, a 872 square feet 3 bedroom, right, has been estimated to provide, close to about 1,000 square feet of the older developments. So that is something that you should take a look and notice about of the harmonization effect. And finally, buyers who are sensitive to the nearby columbarium or the childcare center within the development should evaluate those factors personally. They may not bother everyone, but they could influence the future resale buyer pool. So after balancing the positive and negative, which type of buyers does Amberwoods actually suit for? I think Amberwoods will make most sense for 3 types of buyer. The first is a District 10 or Bukit Timah family buying for long-term occupation. The second is landed homeowners who just want to right size without leaving the neighborhood. And the third is actually a family prioritizing school, greenery, parking, and even a quieter and low density environment. This buyer may place more greater value on the lifestyle and location rather than maximizing short-term financial goals. Amperwood is also actually a less obvious fit for someone who is focused primarily on rental yield because the estimated gross rental yield, right, is about 2.3 to 3.1%, which is considered relatively thin, and the tenant will be highly family oriented. So it also may be unsuitable for someone who's seeking the lowest possible entry price or hoping to make a quick profit simply because this is the first project in Holland Plain. Buying first doesn't really mean making money first. Your eventual return will still need to depend on the price you pay. And that leads to my overall conclusion. My conclusion on Amberwood is actually quite simple. I like the product. I like the low density, the family focused unit type, the ceiling height, and the one-to-one parking and the wider District 10 environment. I also think that the Holland Plain transformation creates quite an interesting long-term story, but I don't think that buyers should purchase Amberwood just purely because it's the first project in Holland Plain. Simlian already paid a strong price for the land, and buyers could spend several years living alongside the construction of the wider precinct. So for me, Amberwoods moved from interesting to compelling only when the actual price proves that the value is there. At the right price, it could be a very attractive long-term own stay product. At the wrong price, buyers may just be simply paying today's for a benefit that will take another 5 to 10 years to materialize. So once the official prices are released, I'll do another breakdown covering which are the unit types, stacks, and facing make sense, and most importantly, which one I will avoid. If you are considering Amberwood, do let me know. You can actually contact me via my WhatsApp, which is in this video, and yeah, and I will do a one-to-one consultation with you. And thank you very much for watching this video, and I do hope that you subscribe to my channel, and have a good day. Thank you.